Welcome to my channel, and this video will be about my works in Kerby Rosanes books. I decided that I won't show my first book with very old works, but let's concentrate on the recent colored pictures. And I want to start from Fragile World. Honestly, Kerby Rosanes is my biggest remorse for this year. He still is probably my favorite artist, and I can't explain why I totally stopped to color his books somewhere in the middle of the year. I have no explanation because I still adore his books. I love to color in them. It's just lack of time, constant switching between other books. I have no other reasons. So, Fragile World. I have books in different editions and very lucky to have Fragile World in addition where I can use at least a little bit of watercolor as an underpaint. The right side I did completely with colored pencils. I think that it's quite a rare thing when I selected such peach orange colors for the background. I think that I wanted to emphasize the atmosphere and to create good contrast to the black fur. Actually, it was really very good, very instructive process of doing black fur. And on the left side, I think that it was my first work in Fragile World. I did quick watercolor background for the sky because I can't imagine how I can do sky with pencils. I hate to do such pencil background, but here, my watercolor paints behaved really well, but I decided that water and birds I will do with pencils. I love to do such mixed media works. For me, they work the best. So even if birds may be not very vibrant, I still think that they look very interesting, and I discovered so many new spices I've never heard about before this book, so that's another reason why I love this book. When I color here, I try to vary a little bit color palettes for the water, because we have many pictures with water, and I try to color it slightly different from page to page. That's a page where I did everything with pencils, including sky. I don't know why my cobalt pencil didn't want to work at all on this paper, but here it doesn't look very attractive. Apart from it, I do love this water, the wave, and how I added a little bit of yellow-green to make water more original, because obviously dolphins, they are not vibrant, so I decided that maybe I can play a little bit with more vibrant background. That's the spread which I want to do next in this book. Probably my favorite spread, which I finished so far here. Again, everything done with pencils, but I think that it's a blend. Prismacolors and polychromases. Sometimes it's easier to combine softer and harder pencils, and here it was even interesting to do sky with pencils. I did it after I watched some TV series documentary about this unique creatures, so it was quite helpful to put here everything I learned about their underwater life and how they try to catch some heat from the sunshine on the warm stones. So yes, it's instructive. Another one which I wouldn't consider as a big success, but well, it was a quick work thanks to the watercolor which I put here on fishes, on the background. I tried to make more visible this swirl around the shark. And the texture on her body, maybe I wasn't very successful. Another huge spread done completely with pencils, again mix of polychromases and Prismacolors, but mostly polychromases. I decided that if fishes are so vibrant in color, I need at least to do all the corals and seaweed in slightly more limited color palette, but despite the limited color palette it still look interesting, so I selected several pencils and I combined them in various combos. So well, very time consuming, but not bad. I can't say that I'm totally happy with fishes. I think now that maybe I had to add more white or at least pearl watercolor to make their scales more shiny, to create this wet look. But I remember that I simply was overwhelmed when I finished this spread with pencils. I simply wasn't ready to spend more time on it. Now I wish I maybe return to it after a couple of days and finish it with some final touches. Spread which I absolutely love, the right side, because I think that I did nice pencil background with this beautiful landscape, and I did enjoy coloring all those feathers. I checked reference photos obviously, and I tried to recreate a variety of brown beige shades on the feathers. On the left side, I tested for the first time in this book Arctic's pencils for all the fruits and berries, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I didn't expect from them to behave so well on this paper. On the fur, on the face, I used mix of pencils. As a basic layer, I used my Derwent, not color source, Derwent Drawings. Yes, Derwent Drawings, favorite pencils for fur. And for texture, a little bit of harder pencils like polychromases. Lovely, I really love this one. When I started to do it, I already saw so many finished pictures that I was afraid that mine would be like a copy, but thanks to the Arctic pencils, it was quite a unique experience for me. Sadly, I wasn't able to recognize probably like 80% of all those fruits and berries, so it was a fantasy work. Well, I think that watercolor for both backgrounds, and then areas which I didn't like, I tried to improve a little bit with pencils. And the rest, it's pencils, pencils, pencils. I still not sure about this blue color, maybe it's too dark for the butterfly, but the right side I love, and probably my favorite part is B, how fluffy is the body, really nice texture here, and those wings, where traditionally I use blue as a base, but I also added a little bit of lavender, pink and yellow to show that they are very delicate and transparent. I have one spread which I started but very quickly abandoned. When I imagined all the work on the leaves, I realized that maybe I'm not ready yet. Maybe one day I will return. Watercolor for the leaves, for the background, and pencil work on frogs and flowers. Another page which I love, where I quickly did the first layer of watercolor on the stones, but then all shadows, all color accents, and of course all penguins I did with pencils. And my biggest shame, don't ask me why I didn't finish it. I think that again the idea that I need to color the final flower and then to do pencil background, I wasn't inspired at the moment, but well, I really love how I did almost the whole area with flowers and plants. Again, it's a mix of pencils. I did several videos how I started from the left and I moved on the bottom part, so I'm sure that one day I will return to it. I just need to have some meditative state where I am able to do a simple pencil background. I imagine colors of peach, salmon pink, yellow, orange, so I don't want to do blue background, something slightly different. When I colored it, I planned to do maybe rising sun, so my trees, they already have highlights from the sunshine on their right sides of the tree trunks. So I will continue with this idea one day. Here I have a lion sword, but it's a Ukrainian edition. I didn't expect it to be so difficult to color. I don't know why. I love fantasy Sam books. I love Kerby Rosanes style, but so far I did only one picture. Usually when I look at Kerby's pictures, I can easily imagine color palettes for them. So sometimes I'm lazy to color because I know that it's big size pictures with a lot of details, so it's a lot of time. But color palette I can easily imagine. Here I struggle a lot. Probably I selected one of the simplest pictures. Here we have this volcano monster. I really enjoyed doing this stone texture on the body with a little bit of lava. But apart from it, it's all pencils. But apart from it, when I look at these pictures, I am a little bit intimidated. I think that I need to experiment with different media. With Inktense, with watercolor, maybe with gouache, maybe it will be easier in such way. Now we are moving to the vault within vaults. Unfortunately here I can't use watercolor and it's a big problem. So I have to color everything with just pencils. And considering this fact, I think that I had not a bad progress. Let's start from the end. A lovely page. I do love such collages, and especially when I recently discovered that it's part of the spread, but surprisingly the second part is inside of the book. You know that I love to color different textures like metal, like stone texture. I simply copied my own background from Anna Carson, where I did Egyptian hieroglyph background with the same beige sand colors. So this one was relatively easy to do. Now I can't believe that I did this spread with pencils. It's again blend of polychromoses and Prismacolors, background mostly Prismacolors. They work well on this paper, it's just a matter of time. I would prefer to do the background with watercolor, but paints, they didn't work well on the paper, they create ugly stains, and the worst thing, paint go through the paper to the next side, even the lightest shades of watercolor paint. One of my favorite spreads. Here I didn't want to copy two totally identical pictures, so I decided to have a little bit of story behind the page, and I have battle between winter and spring. To emphasize the story, I had to add more flowers to do more colorful background here. I tried to use the same idea to do more colorful castle here, even more colorful background. The first deer I tried to turn into reindeer. Well, lovely work, and when I have strong idea and good color planning, even with spreads, it's quite easy to color. Lovely pictures, mostly Prismacolors. This one I think that it's polychromoses because I love all the cobalt colors, all the golden colors in polychromos palette, and of course when we talk about Egypt, about Egyptian color palette, it's a lot of blue, a lot of red, and a lot of gold. Well, overwhelming. I tried to limit amount of colors for the patterns, but as usual, as all my pictures, it's very colorful. Just can't to do anything with with my tendency to use too many colors probably. Well, this one is simple, and probably my favorite part is Fantasy Sky, which I did here around trees. Again, maybe I wasn't very I think that I wanted to finish it more quickly, so on the sand I didn't put all the efforts I could, so the upper part of the background is better, the bottom part not so much, but picture was fun to color, finding all the details on top of the crab, so not bad. I think that it was one of the first pictures which I did in this book, and the outer part, it's polychromasis. You can recognize all their Pompeian red, Venetian red, Indian red, cinnamon colors, and of course all the green golds. Obviously, I wanted to play with the contrast of warm and cold colors outside and inside the lantern. Inside the lantern, I switched to Prisma colors. One of my favorite pictures is this spread where I did quick work with on the background with acrylic paint, but it looked boring. So on top of it, on both sides, I added a little bit of wax crayons from Distress. I added like color accents with brush, matching colors of the crowns. So I think that it's a king crown, maybe this one for the queen. Several colors are the same, like color for the gold or color for the water, but at least I tried to decorate them with different gemstones. Nice practice how to color pearls. Well, I remember that I really enjoyed this one, apart from small struggle with this background. The right side, well, I wasn't a big fan of the page when I started it, because I already saw many finished pictures. I wasn't able that I can add something from myself. So I had only two creative ideas. The first one, I decided to put books on like a rainbow on the shelf with matching colors of their spines. And another one, I added a little bit of purple color, like when books are floating here on the water. The general color of the water is blue, but beneath books I added a little bit of purple to make it more interesting. And I added a lot of splashes here to add more dynamics to the waterfall. The page on the left is much more interesting. I think that it's also a blend of polychromasis Prisma colors and again acrylic background. I think that on the dark background the compass looks very spectacular. I love to color gold, so this one was easy, but when I had this idea to make something like real sun in the center, that's where challenge started. But I think that I managed to do this gradient from the rays of light around the sun and dark sky here closer to the border. Another page where I try to imagine some story, so I have a village of sun and village of moon. And I decided that at least from time to time I can try to color something in more fantasy colors, so no green for the plants and leaves. And I think that it worked relatively well. Another very overwhelming page. Surprisingly, bottom part I love more comparing to the upper part, maybe because I made it again too colorful. Maybe I don't like this viridian green color, but I think that this antique bottom part, it looks better. Here I used more polychromasis to work on the tiny fishes and other creatures. Here to work on the stones I preferred polychromasis, Prisma colors. I think that you can recognize all their cream, beige sienna and especially clay rose and beige rose. Quite unique colors and I love to use them. Another page which I'm quite proud of, mostly because of the background colors. To color bird it was easy. To color temple it was a big pleasure. Again, my struggle started with the background. I decided to try something new, so that's why yellow sky and pink clouds. And the first layer it's pencils, but then I outlined all the clouds to make them softer without hard black border. So I used gouache on top of pencils. And my big shame, the spread which I started. Then I thought that I will do very quick work with watercolor to the center and I will finish. Watercolor behaved so badly here and it bleeded on the next page, even with such pale color, so I was extremely disappointed and for some time I abandoned it. Maybe if I finish the whole book, then I will finish the spread. And finally, my favorite book by Kerby Rosanes. For me, it's definitely on top of the list of existing coloring books on the market. Mythic World, definitely my biggest love. Of course, I am waiting for the newest book by Kerby dedicated to dark fairy tales, but those sneak peek pictures, they are frightening. So many tiny details, I can't imagine how I could color them. So let's have a look what I have here currently. It's very interesting to learn those legends, those myths from different parts of the world, from different countries, about many creatures, probably majority of creatures I've never heard before. So of course I learn the story first and then I try to find matching colors. Here we have this poor elephant. I'm afraid that very soon he will be the food for the bird. I again experimented with the background colors. It's all pencils and again blend of Prismacolors and polychromases. The same for this spread, only pencils, because here I can't work with water-soluble materials, so I have to work even on such a huge background areas with pencils. But I love how both my Prismacolors and polychromases work here. I think that I need to use more Arctics here. If they work well in fragile world, I'm sure that they will be helpful here. So here we have those marine creatures. I think that the biggest challenge was how to color them in interesting way. Again, thanks to unique colors of Prismacolor pencils, those slate gray, jade green colors, pale sage. I did this fantasy color of the skin, quite interesting, and I really enjoyed coloring water and those bricks, those stones. I decided to make it a little bit more cheerful by adding light from the lighthouse and highlights on the clouds with yellow color. Very colorful spread. I had quite a fun work here on the yellow skin tone. I decided to do everything dedicated to gold and as a good contrast, relatively muted colors for the beautiful landscape behind. Here, of course, I looked at reference pictures for the temple and on those statue which inspired Kerby for this creature, so to do blue skin also was very interesting. I struggled with the last step with the selection of color for the sky, but I think that in the end everything worked well. I was afraid that blue body would be lost if we have behind the blue water, but thanks to the different colors, more turquoise blue here and more cobalt blue and ultramarine on the body, I think that it looks nice. Oh well, another huge work, but surprisingly it was easy to do, because from the beginning I knew my main color palette, that's what I used on the creature, this very impressive, very dramatic color combo from orange into magenta and almost black, and of course as a contrast relatively muted colors for the stones. But to make them more fantasy, I also added a little bit of clay rose or beige rose color accents to the gray stones. And another part of the mythical creature, the whirlpool, but I added a little bit of blood to the teeth to show the dramatic nature of the scene here. So lovely page, I still love it. This one was relatively quick because I always knew that colors like gold, magenta and turquoise blue, they always work well together. So I decided to use it here for the lady with the snake. The most interesting part was to color this beautiful headpiece and her hair. I was afraid that they would be lost, but I added tiny dots, like maybe pearls or maybe just drops of water. I think that it was a nice touch. I love to color Egyptian pictures. I already have my favorite selection of colors for the gold, for the gemstones, so this one was just a relax. I absolutely love her wings, her headpiece. Lovely work. I have no idea why I decided to color this creature on the right. Maybe to experiment with another different skin tone on both pictures. Here I was intrigued that I need to do a red color, but when I decided that as a complementary color I will use muted purple and vibrant blue, I think that everything worked quite well. Here it was more challenging how to use muted color palette, limited color palette for all the heads, but with golden colors for the armor, I think that it worked relatively well. I selected very simple acrylic black background. Well, I think that it worked in the end. Maybe not very fun to color, especially comparing to the left side, but also quite instructive. And page which totally cracked me. You can see that I started to do those creatures. I spent a lot of time of doing them. My idea was to color part of them which look like animals with one color palette, and then part of the architecture was very colorful, like real Indian building, whereas to which this page is dedicated. But well, after many hours spending on the animals, I did a break, and after that I hadn't returned to this one. But I saved all videos for this one, so one day I will finish it. It's one of my favorites because it was colored quickly, easily. I love Poland. I love this Wawel castle in Krakow, beautiful building. So I was happy to find it in the book. And that's famous Krakowian dragon. Again, my only question was how black would look here. In the end, I think that it was the right choice. It really created good contrast to the fire, very dramatic look, and to the body of the dragon. And the final one, picture from the cover. When I worked on stones, I also tried to add more dramatic accent, matching wine red color for the sky. I also added the same color as highlights on the columns, on the ground, on the stones. What can I say? Nice page. Maybe I'm not exactly happy with the body, but apart from it, I think that it's not bad. Well, I promise that I won't abandon Kerby books for such a long time. I'm guilty that I was distracted by other books which are maybe easier to color for me, because I know that each page of Kerby, it requires a lot of time. When you have limit of electric power, limit of free time, you tend to select something more simple, something you can finish in more quick time. But of course, pleasure is much bigger when you finish some complicated work, when you can enjoy then your progress in the book. So here I love all my works. I am proud of each and every of them, and definitely Kerby is one of my favorite artists and maybe the favorite one. Let's hope that soon will appear the new book and that it will have not very intimidating pictures, because I love some of dark fairy tales, so I am really want to have a newest book by Kerby. Thanks for watching. I hope that I didn't babble too much.